And of course, he's got to be careful. Espeon, not something that can take multiple prizes in a turn apart from division, which is only really useful in the early game, so he needs to be careful he doesn't fall into the trap of Sledgehammer and Beast Ring as well.
Well, actually, a really big thing, just as we start off, we see Adrien's starting the game with his Rockruff in the active. I think that's 2 Beast Rings in his hand, so he was going to, right, let's get rid of those and put those back in the deck.
Thank God he had Cynthia there.
But the big thing for Tomas is that Espeon prized. He needs to make sure that, really careful thing he has to make sure he does is to make sure if he has the EV, and he needs to make sure he can search his deck before attaching for the turn, because otherwise he's going to declare Energy Evolution, be quite disappointed for a moment, and then have used his attachment for the turn, have no Espeon because he's only playing a 1-1 line.
No, it's a 2-2.
2-1, 2-2 is it? Okay, and so in this case he's actually okay. Of course, yeah, they're different arts, so he's written them down as 2 different numbers. So yeah, the trick here is to find a way of setting himself up. The attachment to the Rockruff here, actually fairly safe from Adrien, because of the fact that the new Rockruffs have 70 HP, you can never be punished by attaching first turn and a sudden DCE for the KO. Ultra Ball, most likely here considering going for one of the Baby Buzz, because he really needs to see these early in the game. So he has options for his attackers. Looking like he wants to have all of his options at the front, so we can decide.
I think here he definitely, with no EV out right now, he's probably safer going for the Baby Buzz. Just being able to... Oh, okay, he's just gone straight for the GX and contradicted everything. I personally would have gone for the Baby Buzz there. Just being able to put damage onto the active. There's not really much benefit of going for the GX. I'm putting a 2-prize Pokemon down that Tomas can really easily pick off with Espeon in the first turn. I think Baby Buzz would have been a much safer play for him to be able to, obviously, hit into the Lele, if at all possible, and of course, do some damage without much punishment on the next turn.
Yeah, so an Elixir, looking to get the early attachments in so he can be aggressive. This is the way that he wins this matchup against a deck that's designed to counter him, is to just basically cut up the tempo. Garbodor decks aren't able to be quick and explosive from the get-go. Kind of need a few turns normally to build up. This is why they play things such as Tramper, probably not in this matchup, and Espeon GX, because these are efficient 1-energy attackers early in the game that force your opponent to play cards. However, if you get into situations where your opponent can just just race away, they can get so far ahead that you just never really have time.
So we see the Mysterious Treasure come down. I imagine we're either going to see another Lele for a Bridget or alternatively a Trubbish, depending on what's going on here. There is only one Bridget in the deck, so Tomas, obviously, noticing that you don't always opt to go for Bridget, it's not necessarily the best thing. You can be a little bit more aggressive and just go straight down. You see the Lele, so I imagine we will see that Bridget. Tomas, I probably think he's best off here going for an Eevee and 2 Trubbish. Getting out that Espeon turn. He's got the Psychic Energy in the hand. The Espeon is in deck, meaning that if he can somehow move the Lele out of the active, he can start putting on some pressure early game.
Yeah, well, if he is able to do so, he does get the ability to hit for 60 straight away turn 1. And in doing so, confusion on the Buzzwole means that he's very likely to be able to take a 2-hit knockout. But again, that's not always the best game plan against Buzzwole nowadays. Taking these early prizes on the Buzzwole GX can lead to Beast Ring turns, which are able to... It's a little difficult for them to reach 200, but they are definitely able to do so. And if they can, then you lose the Espeon, and with 1 prize, which you'll have noticed, becomes quite difficult.
Yeah, the only drawback that Adrien has to consider when he just, goes ahead and plays these Beast Rings, it is going to have a lasting effect with Trashalanch Garbodor. Tomas able to punish the use of items, so Adrien does want to be able to hold off as much as possible and hit things at the right time to where he can't be punished as hard for them. We do see the Brooklet Hill drop. I now imagine we'll see the Baby Buzz here, or the Remoraid.
Yeah, we go for the Remoraid. So the reason why you always take the first 2 should always be a Rockruff and a Remoraid if you can, in either order, depending on what you want for the matchup, because these are 2 cards that need to evolve. You need to have them down for a turn before they actually become useful. At least with the Baby Buzz, the turn, he's expecting that Brooklet Hill to stick around. He's in a position where at any given moment he can just grab the thing. And it's still nice to see, it's a win and in. They're still having a bit of fun. They are in a position where they want to kind of force Baby Buzz to come down whenever it's ready. You don't have to race into it. It is a really nice early attacker, but at this point, Adrien is more than happy to go, okay, I'll just attach Jet Punch. He needs to spread some energy out, and we do see that he's actually playing Fury Belt. The reason why I haven't spotted this is his list is in French, so some of the cards on here, I'm not entirely familiar with what their names would be. But I was going to play Fury Belts, I believe, over Choice Bands.
Yeah, that's quite an interesting pick. We've talked about the effect of Fury Belt a lot over the last couple of days, pushing HP really out of the range of Buzzwole. I imagine the Fury Belt's becoming very handy in the mirror match, often being able to one-shot Buzzwoles as well as skyrocketing yourself out of range of their damage. We're going to see the Brooklet Hill activated. Tomas going to grab a Layla there and then realising it was a Brooklet Hill.
No, I think what he was doing there was he was using the Brooklet Hill to have a look, and then was like, oh yeah, I also have the Mysterious Treasure so I can grab the card I want anyway, but since I'm here...
And we see the Garb come down. The Garb, a really important card on this turn. If he is able to activate it, it means that next turn, if Adrien does have any cards in his hand, such as the Lycanroc, such as the Octillery, they are going to be shut off on that next turn, meaning that they become unuseful. And another Sycamore for 7, and another high five here on this stream. Tomas really hoping to hit a Float Stone or any sort of tool for the Garbodor on the bench, that Lele being able to move out.
So this is doing an awful lot of damage already. It's 60 and I believe 60 for each. 30 for each.
30 for each. That is not a knockout though on this Garbodor with that Fighting Fury Belt.
But what he actually does in a really nice way is that if he can grab himself the Field Blower, he can remove it from the Buzzwole, and then he can actually divide at some point. 10 onto this, spread the damage onto the either the Rockruff or the Ramorade, depending on which he sees as more of the threat, and remove 2 things off the board at once. Again, playing around the full price turn. So we do see a Float Stone as well, which now means that Garbatoxin is live, because Tomas is in a pretty nice state. His hand looks pretty strong. I guess he has the support for next turn, and he's just going to go for the Divide this turn. And he's just working out where does he want to put these last 3.
I think he actually does want to put this 3 onto Buzzwole. Octillery not a threat now. They don't play Field Blowers. Garbatoxin's down. That's not going to be an issue.
Yep.
The 3 on Buzzwole, however, does bring it below the Fighting Fury Belt range to where if any more energy gets attacked to Buzzwole, Espeon can take a knockout with Psychic.
Yeah, and it's actually a really cool way to kind of play this game. It's going, look, what I really know is that you're probably only playing a 1-1 Rockruff line. Let me just double check. He is indeed only playing a 1-1 Rockruff line. The 1 Super Rod, it does mean that they're in a position that, with no abilities and no Field Blower, the Lycanroc, which is the only thing in this deck that was resistant to Psychic, it's gone. It can't ever be played. So, goes for the Baby Buzz now. They're now at the point where you don't need to set up anything that evolves. And even if you did, they're not going to get an awful lot of value out of them. So, it's just he wants the Ultra Ball, but I'm not sure he knows what he wants to go for.
I don't think there's anything that really pushes the game state forward. He can get himself more bench attackers ready to sort of be on the bench and come in after the Buzzwole and the active has been knocked out. However, nothing really that he needs at this minute. Octillery seems a waste of an Ultra Ball right now, as that Garb is going to be sticking for a good while unless he can bring it out and knock it out. But that would require a Guzma and a Float Stone due to the fact that Bloodthirsty Eyes is no longer an available option to Adrien. Tomas is going to be looking next turn as well to establish the Trash Avalanche. We've been talking all weekend about Pokemon sort of posing a threat on the bench, looking threatening, forcing your opponent to play around that a little bit. Trash Avalanche is one of those things with Buzzwole that is probably the scariest card you can come up against, especially when you're in that mid-game and you want to be using your items such as your Beast Rings. Trash Avalanche really, really scary there for him. So Tomas definitely wanting to establish that this turn, allowing him to pose a threat onto this Buzzwole.
So just the Jet Punch, yeah, so the Jet Punch was quite nice there. Puts both the Lele and the Espeon up to 30 damage. Kind of pushing them both in range that if he gets any decent attacks off throughout the thing, he can actually now get to the point where using Swing Around is a viable option to finish things off. It's actually, he's using this in the normal way of just slowly set yourself up with chip damage so that your Baby Buzz, your non-GX attackers can race through to take the prize cards to finish the game off. Tomas, again, I just want to double check what my prize cards are, see what's still in deck, make sure that the play I want to make is an option. I'm going to go ahead and Brooklet Hill. I don't think he has KO here.
He does. The choice band does actually.
The choice band does now, yeah. So
60, 90, 120 times 2.
And Parallel City kicking away the Brooklet Hill. Really strong turn.
Really strong turn here. Tomas definitely in range now, and he's gonna. Will he play that? Is that the Lele R as well? He's taken away that bench damage as well, so Jet Punch becomes even less effective now. Adrien only able to knock out the active here if he does want prizes next turn. But Sledgehammer is dodged. He's going to go down to 3 prizes. Sledgehammer not very effective next turn. And this Espeon is proving to be one of the best counters against this Buzzwole deck.
Yeah, so there's a Beast Ring already in Adrien's hand, so he's okay. At least the Buzzwole turn is gone, but at least he can still use Beast Ring. But he would actually still need to flip heads, or see a Choice Band, to be able to take the knockout with Swing Around. He'd need to see either a Choice Band or flip both heads this turn to be able to take a KO. Otherwise, I think this Espeon is just going to sit there and just keep poking its way through.
Yeah, I think, again, Psychic does take a knockout here as well. This Espeon's looking really strong. Tomas has got to be, you know, there aren't many criticisms for this deck, but one of the things it does struggle to do is find the energy to set up the Division and the Psychic. Oftentimes you'll find that Espeon Garb remains sort of stuck in this Psybeam zone where that's all they're able to pull off for a good while. And so Tomas has got to be pleased here with how quickly he was able to pull that off. Able to get rid of any of Adrien's bench threats, as well as posing it into the active at the top. We do see another Sycamore in hand, meaning he's going to be able to Sycamore for 7.
It'll be another high 5, I think.
Another high 5.
But the interesting thing here is that the turn that he's having to have to be able to keep up, he now has to commit a ton of items. He's played the Beast Ring, he's just Ultra Balled, and one of the cards he discarded was an Ultra Ball. I'm not entirely sure how many items he's gone through, but it's a fair few. He's at the point where, actually, even if he does take this KO on the Espeon, it's a case of a Trash Lunch Garbodor can come in and very quickly just finish off this game. There's only 3 prizes remaining. So, off the Ultra Ball, goes for the other non-GX Buzzwole. These are the attackers you need to use when you're up against a Psychic deck. You can't afford to bench 2 prize attackers because they will just get taken out very quickly, very efficiently, and becomes a real issue for the 3rd high 5 of the game. So he sees Diancie, Regirock, both cards he doesn't really want to see right now. There's another Sycamore. There's an Energy. I don't think there's any way to boost his damage.
There is a Regirock and a Diancie in hand, but a big risk to play both of them down at once.
So he actually can't play either down because of the fact that there's Garbatoxin live, but he could still opt to attach the Beast Energy this turn because he's used Beast Ring. But there's no way to actually take the KO on the active, I think, without flipping, I think, double heads.
Be interesting here. Adrien can swing it. Knocking out the Espeon could be big because obviously Tomas could whiff the Trash Lance next turn, but on top of that, an Espeon still prized, meaning he's not going to be able to grab that.
One heads.
Hits 1 head and just the 1 heads. Unfortunately, misses it.
You see Tomas with a little fist bump.
Very happy, a little fist bump there, and I think he has firmly grasped it now. Taking out this Buzzwole takes him below the Beast Ring count, meaning that obviously Adrien just left with a Baby Buzz, 1 Beast Energy on it.
Yeah, but a really big problem here is that Tomas really needs to find a way of setting up a secondary attacker. This next turn, the Espeon goes down no matter what. 1 energy onto either of the Buzzwole, or just the Buzzwole with energy on, can just very calmly declare Sledgehammer, take the KO, and that's another problem. But he does manage to find the Trash Lance Garbodor and the Psychic. So this means that even if the Espeon goes down, the Trash Lance Garbodor, which is going to be in 2-shot range at this point, can just finish off and take the last couple of prize cards. Just going, how many items did I play? I think was Adrien's question there. It doesn't need to be many, it only needs to be 7. No, it's less than 7, it's like 4 in the discard.
Needs to be 4 with the Choice Band, 5 on its own.
Yeah, but against the Baby Buzz, it doesn't need to be many at all.
Oh no, Baby Buzz obviously, Big Buzz. Needs to be 4.
Yeah, still 4.
Still 4.
Yeah. So, and there were almost certainly 4 items in the discard pile. We saw a Floatstone off the Rockruff earlier on, an Ultra Ball with an Ultra Ball discarded, and a Beast Ring. So we know there was at least that many. And Tomas is going, okay, in that case, I can just declare the Psychic. There's definitely enough items. He's going to double check, which means that the Trash Lance can come in, take a knockout. and do the same again the next turn. I don't think there's anything left in Adrien's deck that is able to withstand the knockout.
We're going to see the Sledgehammer for the knockout. The big question here is, though, obviously the Buzzwole on the bench does have the Beast Energy on it. This turn, if it's able to hit an Elixir and then next turn get a Strong Energy on it, it can knock out Trashalanche, and there isn't too much going on Thomas's side of the board after the Trashalanche goes down. So it's quite important that he gets another Trubbish or the Eevee ready to pick up that Espeon off the prizes.
Yeah, but actually something that needs to happen at some point is he needs to be careful of the fact that Tomas can actually attach an energy and Guzma out the Remoraid and take the last prize that way. So the one in the active position definitely gets KO'd. Or one of the two Buzzwoles definitely gets KO'd next turn. And actually having a route to just take the last prize via the Remoraid is actually another way that he can look into to win this game. We see N. Garbotoxin plus N is actually one of the ways that Espeon Garb and Garb decks in general function. You can afford to fall behind and trying to trap them into a dead hand at the end of the game, but it could also actually count against you. You don't have as much space for high support accounts, but at the moment it looks like Thomas is mostly set up. So we see 2 Beast Ring, but it's just a turn too late by finding the energy. There is an Elixir. It looks like there are, I think that's 10 items, I think that was Thomas showing us, and the attachment to the Rockruff. This is the other way. You now only need an attachment plus the Lycanroc to take the KO.
I think with it, he definitely wants to knock out that Rockruff, even if it's for the last prize, just insurance wise, you know what I mean? It makes no difference. It's the last prize and he wins the game, but I'd definitely go for the Rockruff if I had the extra energy.
Well, no, so I think if Thomas has a Guzma here, I think his best play will be something along the lines of Guzmaing out the Rockruff, deny it, because there is basically no way then for Adrien to ever KO this Garbodor in one hit. It means that the Garbodor will stay around, be able to find the last prize card, no matter what the situation becomes. So
yeah,
we see Sycamore.
We see a Sycamore. He's most probably going to... His deck's looking pretty half empty now. Should be able to hit everything that he wants to hit for this turn.
So we see, I think it's 2 Float Stones, a Guzma and a Sycamore. Going to Brooklet Hill to go, wait. It is in deck, right? I don't know what he's searching for here, but he's like, okay, right. How likely are we to find it next turn to be able to take the game?
I think he's only played 1 Guzma this game, right? So he should have 3 left. 2 left. He only plays 3.
Yeah, so he's actually in a fairly strong position anyway. So just checking his hand, he's like, yep, these are the cards I drew off the Sycamore. My hand looks pretty stacked. Let's find a way to finish this game off. Can take the KO on the Buzzwole, going down to a single prize. The choice band on there, actually kind of nice. Though there are already enough items in the discard pile, it would have meant that the Lycanroc was always in one shot range.
And he draws the Espeon out from the prizes. I think Thomas would have liked to have had 2 Espeon set up this game, but obviously with one of them being prized, he wasn't able to. As much as Trashalanche is good in the late game, I think Espeon, with a choice ban on 1 energy, able to do 120 and confuse, is really, really, really strong.
So something that we should note is there are actually only 2 benched Pokemon in play currently for Tomas, which means that the GX tech would require a strong energy also on the Rockruff. So he actually needs to find a fair few cards. He's managed to find the Ultra Ball, so we can get the Lycanroc straight from deck, and at least make that part guaranteed. But then he does need to see, we see there are, I think most of his strong energy is still in deck. There's at least 2 I saw there. He's in a position to try and find a way of grabbing them. Yeah, he does need to see the strong, otherwise the Trashalanche Garbodor doesn't go anywhere, and that will be the end of game 1.
Yeah, Adrien in the corner here. He attaches it. Dangerous Rogue, though, not taking the knockout here. I hope he has realised and not just gone in for it. This far into the tournament, you'd imagine that he does know what he's doing, but at the same time, very keen to knock this out. Sycamore. And I think that must be game.
Yeah, I think that's Thomas going, it's 50 for each. There's no way this isn't going away.
Yeah, I think that is our game for us. He's noticed now that Dangerous Rogue doesn't, in fact, knock it out. He went to flip it, noticed the maths, not able to do that. Does he have a strong energy in hand now? He has the Guzma as well. Just to wrap it up, just to confirm the fact that even if you can't take it, I've got the Guzma if I was you. In a way, that was actually quite nice of Tomas to do. He could have waited and ran down the clock even more, waiting for Adrien to take his time just to make a decision. Run down, allowing him to have more time just to squeak this out at 1-0. But he nicely revealed the Guzma, allowing Adrien to have as much chance as possible to try and win 2 games now.
Well, this is the thing, and they're in a situation where a draw for either of them is as bad as a loss. They need to be playing to win this game, which means that saving time to make sure that if there is a quick game 2 now, they still have time to finish game 3. It's really important. You know, they're both on their win and in. They're not on a draw and in. Everyone who was in that position is already ID'd.
It's already ID'd. This was the only game we could pick this round.
I think there was one other game that's being played. I think 6 of the top 8 were actually already locked. And there was one game left. But actually, it was going to be Frank Diaz. And as soon as we just had him on the stream, we were like, maybe we take him.
Yeah.
Or maybe we go for this one.
So, on highlight of that first round, we mentioned at the start, would Espeon be the direct counter that we thought it would be? What are your thoughts after the first round? Do you think that put up as strong as a fight as it should have, or were you expecting a little bit more?
Well, so I think a big problem, a big thing that happened there was that the first turn he managed to find the Psychic Energy, and the second turn he found a DCE, which means that immediately he was able to divide, remove the Rockruff. He had Psychic ready to go, which basically said, look, if you ever put 2 energy on a Buzzwole, which you're going to want to do at some point, it's gone. And it basically kind of really becomes a big issue. Actually, really important to note that the maths with that divide is very different with that Rockruff in play. The 70 HP means that Tomas could have put 40 on it if you used the older ones, which actually was taking 1-shots.
I think we've just seen Tomas start Drampa.
So this is one of the risks of this deck, is because you have to have a slightly...
No, it was a Trubbish. I definitely saw shiny white stuff, so I thought it was a Drampa. Must have been able to keep it in hand though with another basic, but that would have been the worst thing possible for him. Yeah, the Trampa in hand in the middle of his hand right there. So.
Yep. For Adrien, this is actually a really nice start. He already has most of his Pokemon that he's going to need for the duration of this game in play, and his prizes look pretty good. The 2 Fury Belts are a little concerning, but not as big a problem. On Thomas's side, that Bridget is only playing the 1 copy. That means that his ability to establish a board from the get-go is actually way more difficult. Because there's some form of conversation. The Floatstone, they're also prized. Yeah, there's 2 Floatstone. A little bit of an issue, not the end of the world. We know that Garbodor is very strong in this matchup, but at the same time, he has a few turns to be able to find one. He's not in a rush to hit the first Floatstone.
Yeah, I think obviously it'll be slightly harder for Tomas to be able to find that Floatstone for himself, but should be able to. 2 is still an ample amount for you to be able to find it. He's benched the Diancie here. Now, what do you think about this play? Because obviously Diancie at some point in this game will be rendered useless by Garbatoxin.
Yeah, but the issue, so what he's actually managed to do here is he doesn't need much now to be able to take a 1-hit knockout on the active Trubbish. This means that Tomas really wants to find a second Pokemon this turn, which he's going to try to, which means that he's lucky to Ultra Ball for a Lele. Try and get, probably thinking he wants to grab Bridget, but he wants to really set up something on the bench this turn. Otherwise, he's in an awkward situation where the active Trubbish gets knocked out. It's already at the point where it's doing this 50 damage, so he needs a strong, to just take the chip damage, knock it out. And at that point, Tomas is going to have to work for things. The other really nice thing is that Adrien didn't have to play many items during that first turn to get to this board state. He already has the Remoraid in play. He already has the Diancie. I think he's only Ultra Balled. I think that's the only thing he's played so far. But it's actually a really kind of nice situation for him to be in. He hasn't had to use too many resources to get himself set up.
Yeah, Tomas looking slightly frustrated that his only Bridget is prized, obviously running the risk of playing one of them. I imagine if he's Mysterious Treasured, he's probably still going to be going for a Lele here, getting himself a supporter for discarding that N already. Looks like he's going for Cynthia here, shuffling his hand in, and he needs to try and find an Eevee this turn to get the Psychic Energy onto.
Also, actually, his list doesn't actually play any Ultra Ball. He was saying that I think it was it Xander's list from Madison? But someone played Espeon Garb in Madison, and he said that the biggest change he made is he wanted no Ultra Balls in, just Mysterious Treasures, because the only things you can't grab are your Eevee and your Tramper. And most of the time, if you want your Eevee or your Tramper, you can grab Bridget with the Lele, so you still get them. The issue is that occasionally you get into awkward situations like this one, where if the Bridget's gone, you're not able to find the card.
Yeah, I think one Bridget is still right in this deck, though. Obviously, it can be slightly inconsistent, it can be slightly clunky and hard to get things out. So adding another Bridget into that mix does not seem like the safest option to me. So I think one is perfect, and we do see the Mysterious Treasure getting rid of that Tramper at haste.
Yeah.
He knows there is no chance that that's going to be used in this matchup.
As soon as he was looking through and he saw the Mysterious Treasure and the Tramper next to each other, they were like, perfect, that's exactly where I wanted them.
It's almost
as
if it's a sign.
Like this. He grabs himself another Trubbish. So this turn he can make the nice, he can still Acid Spray. It's 20 damage. Discard the first fight. Potentially discard the Fighting Energy. Not too much of an issue because Adrien really wants to see strong, and you don't really ever want to commit much more than one energy to the first Buzzwole. And so when that's the situation,
the Acid Spray and it's a Tails, but 20 damage down onto the Buzzwole.
It's kind of a nice thing to be able to discard the energy, but Adrien was always going to want, hey, if I just grab a strong energy, it's going on here and I'm taking the knockout anyway. Forced to N, his hand after the last turn seemed a little bit lackluster. Playing the Ns early can also be nice because he wants to, if he expects to get this kind of aggressive start that he's got and continue going, he's very quickly going to go ahead in prizes.
Of course. This is why you're starting to see a drop in N in these decks like Buzzwole, like Quad Lapras, simply because they know they're meant to be taking prizes early on. They'll still play N to disrupt their opponent late game, if of course their opponent does end up pulling ahead a little bit, but N being less of an effective card in this deck due to the fact that they're normally going to be ahead on prizes. And Tomas looking at his hand, I see an Eevee there, I don't know, he's accidentally flipped that over, I don't think Adrien was paying attention though. I don't know if I saw a Psychic Energy there though.
Yes, there is. There's next to the N in his hand, so he's able to get the Espeon next to him. But we do see exactly what we wanted. You see the strong energy, taking the knockout on the first Trubbish, which means that he gets to take his first prize card of the game. Taking them in from the middle first. Some people are very superstitious in how they take their prize cards. A lot of people take them in very particular orders.
I think here Tomas needs to find in one turn the Garbatoxin Garb, the Float Stone for it to move it out, the Eevee onto the bench, and the Psychic Energy onto the Espeon. So of course we've done one piece of that puzzle. Tomas is going to be praying for a supporter this turn to be able to get Garbatoxin and a Float Stone out and start locking up that Octillery and Diancie.
Yeah, there's an awful lot that this deck can do in a very short amount of time. It has an N. Discarding the second Espeon, probably thinking, look, by the time I get the extra Eevee out, I'm probably, if this turn goes to plan, I already have Garbatoxin in play. It's going to be much more difficult to establish the second one. He is playing things like Stretcher, I believe. Let me just double check. He's playing Rescue Stretcher. So he was able to grab it back should he ever bench that Eevee. And taking another Trubbish, as opposed to the Garbodor. And ends.
And N is played. Tomas probably crossing his fingers right now. Really needs that Garbodor.
Well, I think the thing he needs most right here is the Float Stone. The Float Stone at least lets you put confusion damage onto this Buzzwole. 460 and confusion. That actually causes a few problems because there's no energy anywhere else on the board. There's no Float Stones in play for Adrien. Having found the Field Blower, Tomas finding that Field Blower earlier on in the game. And you're also in a position where you don't want to commit too many tools too early unless they're very useful.
He does have the Garbatoxin.
Yeah, he does. But does he also have the Float Stone? Doesn't look like it. So here he's just going to go, look, I'm just going to have to deal with what I've got. It looks like he might have this mysterious the Rescue Stretcher in hand. Putting the Trubbish to the top of the discard pile. Seems to be, yep, it is indeed the Rescue Stretcher. He's just going, yep, alright, we'll play it.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice. I don't think there's anything else he wants to put in his deck. The Dramper, not really useful in this matchup. The Trebuchets, however, he wants one Trash, one Garbatoxin. Of course, with the 2 Floatstone prized as well, that Garbatoxin is going to be harder to set up. So I think by Rescue Spectrum for the Trubbish, he's going to have a much easier time. We see Garbatoxin come down without a tool, just sitting there in the active. And I think we'll see a Sycamore here, getting rid of 4 cards in
he's
Thomas's
already
hand.
ended this turn, so it's just going to be a case of pass, I think. Trying to work out if there's any other cards he wishes to play. And what he's done here is he's at least meant that the Trubbish doesn't get knocked out. He has, I think it was a Cynthia in hand for next turn, so he was able to Cynthia and hopefully find the Floatstone next turn instead.
I think this is still risky though. If he turned off Diancie even by attaching that Choice Band, then it would be almost impossible for Buzzwole to knock out Garb.
With the current state that he'd need, if he, so Adrien can easily just attach another energy and use Swing Around to take the KO. It's actually 120 base already, so it would actually take a clean knockout with the coin flips. So Ultra Balling. And grabbing probably a Rockruff here so that he's able to threaten the Dangerous Rogue. There are now 4 Pokemon on Thomas's side of the board, which means he is able to take some knockouts with it, the Dangerous Rogue attack. Unlike last game where he was 20 damage short, and he's in kind of just double check. He's like, right, what other things could I take? Are those better?
I think the Rockruff's always the right play here. As we've said a million times before, Lycanroc having the different weakness is probably going to be as large as out in order to win this matchup. Bloodthirsty Eyes as well. As long as Garb isn't active, he is able to pull up, for example, that Garb on the bench and knock it out before it does become a problem. I do think Lycanroc's the most integral part of this matchup, but Adrien not able to set it up yet in either game.
And now we see an Abyssal Hand again for an empty hand. They've been doing this an awful lot, officially playing their hand sizes down. I see a Beast Ring and a whole bunch of energy. In fact, there might be 2 Beast Ring and a whole bunch of energy. Going for it's actually the active. Thomas is like, yep, I saw that coming. It's potential to be able to knock out the Garbatox and Garbodor is a big risk for me. So basically saying, right, I'm going to try and keep my options open for the next turn. Thomas now in a tricky spot. He really wants to find a DCE this turn so he can actually use the Psychic attack to at least start taking some knockouts.
Yeah, exactly what I was talking about earlier. This deck really struggles to find the DCE. Only 4 of them in such a clunky deck with lots of cards and lots of moving pieces. Espeon needing that in order to knock out this Buzzwole. He sets up another Garbatox and Garb and gets the Choice Band on it. So that will move things in the right direction for him. Turning off Diancie, turning off Auxiliary, and now, of course, the Espeon has an even more chance of getting the DCE.
Yep. So after this Cynthia, actually a card that these decks really appreciate. It gives you like another very consistent draw support for the whole duration of the game. Something that is actually a really nice benefit to have. So with the Espeon, don't think he saw the DCE. He may now be able to just instead confuse, look to try and slowly establish a threat. Or in fact he could evolve the Trubbish on the bench, I believe. I think that came down last turn. There were 3 Trubbish in play. He could evolve the one on bench and attach a Psychic and use Treasure Lamp instead. Because there are 5 items already in the discard for Adrien.
Let's have a look now to see what he does. And the Parallel City, that's actually really big. Adrien, a tough choice here. The secondary attacker in his Buzz that is more than definitely being hurt this turn. He gets rid of Auxiliary.
Well, the thing is that he knows that he is never going to be able to use his abilities without taking another KO, right? So he actually doesn't need the Auxiliary or the Diancie. So it was an equal choice of either or. The Diancie could be useful because it means that if he does take the KO, he's actually able to respond. It's much easier for him to take the knockout on the Espeon. Because what he's done here is he's given himself a case of an attachment plus a Choice Band. to the Rockruff is in a really nice situation. Even with the 3 on bench for Tomas, if he gets a choice band and a strong energy, the Dangerous Rogue is still taking a knockout, still hitting for 200 damage.
Yeah, it's a question here on whether he pays the retreat or not. He isn't in a position at the moment where he can just easily beast ring these energies back. He is going to be in a position to actually get them manually, and he does drag up the Garbatoxin, yanking the DMC out, and I'm sure we'll see the retreat from the Floatstone as well. But the really important thing about this is Octillery now in the bin. We're not going to be able to see the effects of Auxiliary happening yet, but not much going on in Adrien's hand as well. But he does have 2 Beast Rings, so perhaps even baiting a 2-prize knockout here, or 2 separate prizes for Tomas to take, and while he's just got everything in mind for his Beast Rings to be played down the turn afterwards.
Yeah, so I think there's actually mostly energy in his hand. I believe there's another strong, which means that he has obviously the Jancy surviving, ramping the damage way larger, but the other problem is that finding the way to, find a new attacker. I don't think he has a supporter. I'm not entirely sure if he has a way of taking KOs. So we'll see what happens. It's also worth noting there's actually not that much time left in the round already. We're less than 15 minutes, which means that this game is likely to end in a tie. If Adrien is able to keep this kind of presence up and keep taking these knockouts, if this game does end in a tie, this means I think both players might be out of contention, or that one of them may be on the bubble.
No, I think especially for Tomas, I don't think another draw here will do any of them any favours. Tomas already with 4 draws over the whole tournament. I can't imagine him being too happy with that. But now we see the end drop. There are 3 prize cards left for Adrien, 6 for Tomas. Tomas is going to be hoping to hit that DCE at last, and of course start to do some damage to the Buzzwoles.
Yeah, so with 31 points being the safe point for top 8, as far as we are aware, this is going to be a very exciting and dramatic finish.
And does he hit? Yes, he hits the DCE at last. He's going to be very happy with that. Espeon actually being able to pose a threat now. However, does he just go for the side beam here and take the knockout that way?
So actually with the Fury Belt, he wasn't taking the knockout.
Oh yeah, of course, with the Fury Belt, didn't see that. Yeah, with Psychic, we're able to take the knockout there, and it's straight into the discard it goes. Diancie promoted with the Floatstone, and of course Adrien will start off his turn.
So he draws the Tapu Lele, which is actually huge right now. There's a bench space cleared out. There's actually now an awful lot of bench space is cleared out because he finds the counter stadium. And all he really looks for here is if he can find himself his copy of Lycanroc GX. There are, I believe, 7 items in the discard, if those dice are correct, which means that an attachment. He already has the Lycanroc in hand, which means that he can actually just go straight in, grab a Sycamore, or a draw supporter this turn, evolve. He's still thinking he needs a choice band. No, I think he's just short, isn't he? It'll be 190 with a choice band currently, so he actually would need a second strong energy.
Getting that second strong energy down as well is going to be a difficult feat for himself.
The other option he actually has here, it's a fairly safe play, is to actually just take the 2 prices off the Lele this turn. Or he could GX attack, get rid of the Garbatoxin, the Trash Lunge Garbodor. Meaning he only ever has to go through the Espeon or the Lele to finish the game off.
Yeah, I think we're looking at a very similar situation, but on the other side of the board this time. Tomas having a very established attacker, and Adrien just needing 1 or 2 things to be able to stay in this game, but them not being there for him to capitalise on. That Rockruff wants the energy, it wants the Dangerous Rogue, but Tomas is too smart not to bench anything else right now. He falls just short at 190. Of course, Lycanroc not able to use the Fighting Fury Belt, so the only way to buff that damage is in fact with Regirock or with a choice band.
Yeah, so we actually see that Adrien was like, okay, right, I could attach this now, I could Lycanroc now, but actually it doesn't really help me. I still think maybe evolving could have been an option. At least now he doesn't have to draw into strong energy and Lycanroc, and he actually doesn't.
Hits the Lycanroc here, but no strong energy. There's 2 elixirs in hand though. Adrien able to start elixiring onto the mini Buzzwole, being able to set up a secondary attacker ready for after Dangerous Rogue. Beast Rings at the forefront of the deck. He can't.
Great catch by the judge. He was like, oh yeah, you can play the Beast Ring. You can show him you have a Beast Ring if you want, but it's not going to do anything.
Of course, Adrien, with the right idea though, he knows he needs more energy on board. He is able to opt and use the elixirs, obviously not for a guaranteed hit.
Especially because the ordering of these 2 cards should really almost always be elixir then Beast Ring. So that you actually still have energy in deck to hit with your with your elixirs.
Yeah, so actually hitting the elixir there, starting to set up a benched Buzzwole. That's actually really important for Adrien. As once this Espeon goes down, Trashalanche already there for Tomas to capitalise off of. But obviously Adrien didn't have a base attacker before, but now will he hit the second elixir? He won't. He hits the strong energy. Disappointing there that you can't actually attach that. Tomas just looking through the discard now, ready to see if Trashalanche is able to do any damage now. He wants to know, can Trashalanche take out Lycanroc in one hit? Because that's what I really need.
Something that we could see here actually from Adrien that would be quite nice is to... there's no way that the Lycanroc takes a KO... I know the Garbodor takes a KO on the Lycanroc, right? You'd need to put another item in the discard. So maybe those elixirs may be something that come back to haunt him a little bit. But, instead of just doing a little bit of damage to the Espeon, because he knows that, really speaking, the thing he has to deal with is this one. And now he no longer needs the extra damage boost, so he can just Lycanroc and KO it next turn. But if he had avoided playing the elixirs, there was no way for Tomas to KO the Lycanroc in the next turn. So he could have actually used the GX attack, then opted to use the Buzzwole on the bench with single energy, the GX. He could have hit for 190 this turn, and then use the Jet Punch to finish it off later, meaning that he can actually take 2 prizes, basically at any point he needs to take 2 prizes.
See the attachment to the second Trubbish here. Tomas obviously opting to go for 2 Trashalanche. See a Sycamore, discarding another Sycamore, EV, DCE, and a Psychic Energy. Will it be worth it for Tomas? And he picks the cards over. And we see more DCE as well.
The problem for Tomas is that in the next turn, no matter what he does, he plays into Beast Ring. If he takes a KO at any point, Beast Ring is on. At least there is no non-GX Buzzwole for him to have to deal with. But the 50 damage has already meant that if another non-GX Buzzwole comes in, it's very likely able to take a KO.
Here we go, and we see the Choice Bank come down on Garb. Tomas probably opting here, as he's got now a Trubbish with a Psychic Energy on the bench, another Trashalanche in hand. He's probably going to opt to Division here, or alternatively Trashalanche the active Buzzwole, making it a 1-for-1 prize trade, or alternatively getting rid of the threat of Lycanroc before it actually comes to suffice. And there we go, we see the Rockruff in the bin, and I would imagine there will be 30 damage put onto the Buzzwole GX then for an easy 2 prizes for Tomas later in the game.
But the thing is this may not be quite enough this turn, because in going into 4 prizes, the active Buzzwole hits for 140 currently, only needing an extra 10 damage, with the fact that he can still bench the Regirock to get that damage to take the KO on the Espeon. He can take the KO with the Espeon with a single prize attacker, Beast Ring onto the bench to Buzzwole GX, so that he basically guarantees himself an attacker for next turn if he wants one, and is actually in a really commanding spot.
Yeah, this deck just seems to have the answers to it. It's such a good counter, it's so powerful that Adrien just can't seem to claw back in.
No, I think Adrien's actually still in control of this game. So with the Beast Rings in hand, he's actually able to...
Yeah, but the thing is, obviously you could argue that he's in control due to the Beast Rings getting the energies down, but I imagine that those energies are going to go down. He is able to knock out the Espeon. However, that Trubbish has already got a Psychic Energy on it, and Trashalanche is in hand, which means that Tomas has 2 2 prize Pokemon on the bench, meaning that he is able to take 4 prizes in 2 turns.
Yeah, but Adrien only need to take 1 more prize card if he takes out this Espeon, which means that he only needs to find a way of setting up 1 more attacker, and in which case he's actually in a really good spot. I think there was a Lycanroc in hand as well as the Beast Ring for Adrien. We showed the Beast Ring last turn when he tried to play it when he couldn't. And the 2 are going to the Buzzwole in the active. He has a Guzma. He has I think that's a...
I think it's another Buzzwole.
Yeah,
right?
and a Lycanroc.
And not much else for Tomas to be able to do here. A swing around does do... oh wait, Sledgehammer is also activated as well. So Diancie making that 140, that's 190.
Yep. So he'd actually be able to take the knockout with Sledgehammer this turn.
No, he wouldn't. 140 plus 5, 190.
Yes, but there's already 50 damage on it, on the Espeon.
No, that's what I mean. 50 plus 140.
Yeah. You could grab a Regirock from deck if you wished. There's no Garbodor in play, right? But he's instead going for the Guzma.
And he hits.
So he actually managed to take out.
That is big there from him. However, that Espeon able to come back in and take prizes now as well.
Yeah, the issue is that in playing the Beast Ring to the active, he had to be able to take the knockout on the Trash Launch. But in doing so, now means that it's actually really easy for the Espeon to take KOs.
Yeah, not only that, I think now we could see an easy knockout from the Trash Launch, meaning that if Buzzwole GX does come in and take the last couple of prizes, it's going to leave Adrien with just 1 prize, and we could see that awful end to 1 for Adrien without an Octillery. He hasn't got anything in hand right now apart from a Guzma, a Buzzwole, Lycanroc. We don't know what his top deck will be yet. Setting up that Lele with a DCE as well. And the end, see, exactly, taking Tomas right away down to 2. We've said a couple of times throughout this matchup, a small hand side for a Buzzwole player, really, really devastating if they don't have a way to draw out of it, potentially. Adrien needs to really hope for perhaps energy or a Beast Ring and a Guzma. That's the way he's going to be able to take the last 2 prizes, but without that, he is only going to go down to 1 prize, giving that Espeon plenty of time to be able to take 2 more.
Yeah, and in talking about time, there's just not that much left of it in this round. We're in a position where, at the end of this game, if this game finishes, we're not going to get to the point where we are going to see the 3rd game. There's basically no way this happens, which means that as far as Tomas is concerned, he's either winning this or it's going to be a draw.
Yeah, I can completely see that. Obviously, the players, neither of them want the draw. Trying their very best to make sure it's squeaks out into a solid finish for one player. I think it's just the Trashalanch here for the knockout on the active Pokemon. Was that the Beast Energy in Adrien's hand? I couldn't quite see it, but I saw a reflective. We see the Float Stone coming down and the Diancie into the active. Nice there for the retreat. Adrien Jaws, he's got the N, the Lycanroc and the Brooklet Hill. He's got really useless cards in his hand. Not much he can do here. He's going to try and grab another Buzzwole. Regirock is still in the deck as well. Regirock, I think, could potentially be a really bad play here. Not many ways to get that out of the active. It does get dragged up, meaning that Espeon can just continuously poke it. I don't know.
So this basically comes down to what Tomas will see off this N. Because
I think, Tomas, obviously, Tomas, what you'll see off this end. Also, Adrien could see something nice off this end. Still in a position to play Beast Ring here. So that could obviously be very nice for him. I think he's got 1 left in deck.
But the issue is if you play Beast Ring to take the KO on this Trashalanch Garbodor, they just promote the Espeon and declare Psychic for
Of course, but then they'd both be on 1. So it just depends then who would be able to take the 1.
No, because if... so, in playing Beast Ring, you put 3 energy onto one of the Buzzwole, right? In promoting that Buzzwole, take the KO on the Trashalanch. He goes to 1 prize card. You have nothing on board at that stage. You just see a strong energy and a Sycamore at the very least.
It's not the worst for him. With Diancie and the strong Jet Punch, not quite cutting it with the Garb. Tomas is in a nice position here to use Trashalanch again, taking himself down to 2. Hopefully avoiding the Buzzwole and potentially being able to knock it out of the Espeon or in reverse, whichever one is more suited for whatever's in the active. But the Sycamore in hand for Adrien, not able to play it, but next turn it does allow him to hit as much things as possible for him to be able to draw out of this. Thomas,
he's just
counting down the seconds now. He's just having a pass. He's going to look at Brooklet Hill. He's going to run down this clock a little bit more now, and really hope to pull this out in the last couple of turns.
Well, so the nice thing here is that he can double check the items, make sure he's perfectly happy. He can take the KO on the DNC. In doing so, goes into 2 prize cards left. Everything on Adrian's side of the board is going to be a 2 prize card. I think he even knocks out.
Sees the Guzma. He's going to drag up the Buzzwole with the strong energy. I think that is the best play possible he can do. That strong energy being one of the last things in deck that he's got. He's going to retreat that Lele out for the Trashalange, and he's going to have that 1 for 2 prize exchange here on the Buzzwole. And that also means now that Adrien needs to hit Guzma and Strong Energy next turn in order to be able to knock out any Lele on the bench, as well as elixirs and stuff like that. I think Thomas might have just squeaked it out there with that Guzma.
Yeah, so the B-string, we see the B-string 1 turn too late.
1 turn too late again. We've seen this all day today. The Sycamore will come down. Will Adrien be able to find anything to keep him in this game and get a draw?
I think he's already played most of his elixirs as well, so there's no way that this Buzzwole is going to be able to attack. And if it does attack, it's going to just get knocked out.
Exactly. I think that is it. Playing that Sycamore, no Guzma there, no way to move that Espeon into the active to take the last 2 prizes for him. And unfortunately, it looks like a Thomas just win here for top 8.
Yeah, so really cool. It's actually been really weird.
I just winked at the camera as well. Clash there from Thomas.
It was actually a really weird thing we managed to do all weekend. A lot of the people we managed to choose yesterday in the early rounds have managed to make their way through to top 8. So it appears that there's like a lucky side of the table to be sat on.
A lucky side of the table to be sat on. Lovely clash there from Thomas. That Espeon Garb